Welcome to Panzara Basketball. Today is going to be a pretty brief live talking about what happened yesterday with the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, the Raptors did not play well. Their spacing was atrocious. Their superstar, I call him a superstar. You might call him a role player. Their superstar role player, their superstar role player. Scottie Barnes ended up with 1 point. Obviously, it has been the topic of a lot of trolling today around Raptors boards. And instead of trying to go into some sort of weird narrative based, this is why you're wrong, this is why people are right conversation about it, I figured let's just do what I do best, which is pull up the film. Let's talk about what Scottie Barnes, Immanual Quickley, RJ Barrett, and guys like this can do to space open this roster. Now, a lot has been said about spacing. I don't know if people completely understand the value of spacing, but I'll leave it to one of the more interesting coaches in the NBA to describe it as the reason why things go right or wrong on your offense on the offensive end is pretty much spacing. If you want to talk about the openness of shots, if you want to talk about the openness of drives, if you want to talk about the efficacy of if you want to talk about the efficacy of screens, if you want to talk the propensity of turnovers, a lot of this comes down to your offensive spacing. And there's a lot of things you can do to maintain good spacing. And some of that just happens to be the positioning between the players. Sometimes it has to do with the activity and the motion of your players. There's a lot that's been talked about on Raptors Republic and very many channels about Grady Dick and what he does for spacing with his movement offense, with his cutting. And these are good things. Screen setting from Jakob Pertl. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be a you don't have to be a great you don't have to be a great shooter to provide good spacing for your team, but you do need to be in the right places. So let's take a look at some of this, and then we'll talk about, maybe some of the Scottie Barnes stuff that has come out today. We spent a good deal of time on the panel talking about it today. That's disappointing. It's really disappointing that 1 point games are discussed in front of 70,000 people. Really wish the panel did not go that direction. But obviously, if I'm on a show and Scottie Barnes has scored 1 point the day before, people just can't let it go. So unfortunately, 70,000 people had their time wasted discussing a 1 point preseason game. But we're going to take a look at what are some of the things that maybe Scottie did not do right. And there's a lot that he didn't do right. So let's start with quickly. We'll move to 4 Scottie plays. Let's start with this play right here. Okay, so many people have talked about Immanual Quickley's, let's say, would it be fair to say poor processing? Sometimes he just doesn't process the court very well. I think that would be a fair assessment here. Now, here you'll see gets the rebound, right? Immediately, the Raptors are talking about transition, running. Okay, so let's assess their spacing here. I think their spacing is fine. They have got 2 players on the wings. Scottie's trailing 1 player ahead. This is fine. Now, Immanuel Quickley is going to pitch it ahead to the player, and this is the right move, right? Now, right here is where everything is kind of off, right? Grady cuts way too early, right? If he was starting his cut right now, this is a wide open dunk for Grady. Instead, Grady's just kind of in the way, allowing that second defender. So the transition spacing is bad. The pacing of the transition is bad. So now Grady and Ochai are going to the same corner, which means your spacing is horrible. Now, Jonathan Mobo has to read the situation and say, hey, my teammates made a mistake here. Let me kick this out to Ochai Agbaji. No, instead, Jonathan Mobo is going to try a contested shot over 2 players. This isn't a great shot for LeBron James. How is this a great shot for you? This is a terrible shot. And Jonathan Mobo is a good enough player to know better. He's a high IQ basketball player, but thankfully he tips it out. Look at the spacing on the team. Now, this is 100% on Immanuel Quickley, in my opinion. You can see the other 2 players. You were the last player up. You have a responsibility to fan out to the other corner to allow the defense to not be this predictable, for the offense to not be this predictable. You're like the bomber shooter. You're the 38% pull-up shooter, and you're just standing here waiting for a jump shot, and you've got 3 players who are at maximum 15 feet away from each other. Each player should be 15 feet away from each other. It is really ridiculous. So now Grady is going to throw this pass to Ochai Agbaji, which is the wrong pass, by the way. You're too close to make that pass for any advantage. And Ochai Agbaji fakes. Now he's going to drive. Grady's in his way for some reason. This offense is a nightmare. What are we doing here? And now this pass that Ochai Agbaji thinks of throwing to Scottie Barnes is 100% going to get picked off because of your spacing. Once again, this is why you space the court so that Bruce Brown doesn't have such an easy job here. Now, Immanual Quickley is now going to pick up a foul. So it's 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, 3 mistakes. It's a lot of mistakes. Let's go into this, okay? Because I think you're going to get something from this. Speaking of making back-to-back-to-back mistakes, here are some Scottie Barnes mistakes. Pull this up, make it big. Okay. So this is Scottie getting an early steal, right? He beats his man, Bruce Brown, up the court. Help is not back. And so he is trying to get an early steal. And this is a big part, pitch aheads. This is what the Raptors want to do with their offense. They want to get ahead of the play. They want to get quick looks down low. So here, Immanual Quickley does send it down to Scottie Barnes. Little bit off target, right? Just a little bit off target, which is going to send Scottie a little bit out of bounds. Now, Scottie is immediately thinking pass here. This is a problem. You cannot be thinking pass here when you've got Bruce Brown underneath the basket. You got to be thinking score. Okay, so forget about the bad pass. Now that you've got it in this position, you've got it. You're not falling out of bounds. You need to go up strong with this. Instead, you take that second step, and for whatever reason, you don't get your balance back, and you decide to fall out of bounds, throwing this to Ochai Agbaji. Not the right play. You need to go up with that. Now, what is Scottie doing? He's just standing out of bounds. Now he's just getting in the way, right? And I mean, it's just like, whatever. There's no good thing he can do from that position other than to get back in bounds. So they're at least giving, Ochai Agbaji a pass. Ochai makes the best read possible and gives it to Grady Dick in the corner. Grady is going to take this shot. Grady is going to miss this shot. Bruce Brown gets away with fouling Mobo. And now Scottie goes for a gamble. Okay. And it's a very lazy, very sloppy gamble on Julian Strawther. He nearly falls over on Jonathan Mobo. He looks around at the ref like, what are we doing here? And now they've got a 5-on-3. They've got a 5-on-3. Tim Hardaway Jr. is on the opposite corner. Here comes Julian Strawther. You don't have to be a genius to see that Tim Hardaway is wide open. Scottie Barnes is a genius. So he sees that Hardaway is open from halfway at the backcourt, and he sprints his ass down and then commits the second foul, which is he fouls the jump shooter. Now, I want you to see where he committed this foul because this is an extra point that's given to them. You are not even close. Not even close. You got to let this go. This is some Russell Westbrook bullshit right here by Scottie Barnes. He needs to be better than this. He can't commit that foul. And that is stupid. By the referee, that's stupid. That's totally inconsequential to the foul. Like, come on, man. Like, that's an and one. The ball was almost a second out of his hands after he got fouled. Is that a shooting foul? I don't know. I guess it is. By the letter of the law, that's a shooting foul. It's a really dumb foul by Scottie Barnes. Moving on to the next play. Okay, here comes Scottie Barnes dribbling up against some pressure against Bruce Brown. Makes the pass while falling out of bounds once again. Lucky he didn't get a backcourt violation there. Jonathan Mobo is going to come and try to set a screen for Immanual Quickley, but Immanual Quickley doesn't even wait for the screen. He's just going. He just wants to go, right? So now he thinks he's going to get a pull-up here on a crossover, doesn't get the required space. Mobo is going to try to set a screen here, slips the screen before setting the screen. Can we get somebody to set a screen here? And now Quickley is going to send this pass to Scottie Barnes. Once again, off target at Scottie's ankles. Scottie nearly breaks his body in half trying to get back to this. Sends it back to Quickley. Now Scottie's going to get up. Quickley is going to come up. Now, what are your options here? Sends it to Scottie Barnes. And it's an air ball. Like, my God. Talk about horrific offense. Okay? Now here, this was the play we discussed. This is that pull-up jumper by Scottie Barnes. Late clock situation. Should have never been in this situation. But you got Brandon Ingram wide open. You got 3.4 seconds on the clock. You have done your job. They're trying to do defenders. You've done your job. You have RJ Barrett not necessarily open, but you've done your job. You've drawn two defenders. BI is wide open. This is not a pass that I expect Scottie Barnes to miss. Brandon Ingram being wide open, to me, this is criminal. That you take this shot with BI wide open is just nuts to me. It's not that I mean, his shot is also wide open. Like, his shot is also wide open. Scottie's also wide open. That's not the point that I'm making here. It's that two players are wide open, one of them with a way more efficient shot. Like if you're looking to set up your teammates, that's a better shot. Here, Scottie is going to get past Bruce Brown. He just didn't have a lot of lift yesterday. You know, you can see it kind of pushing off on Jonas Valanciunas. Gets to the line, makes one of two. Okay. So we're done with that. Okay. So let's talk about some things that the Raptors have to clean up. Here's RJ Barrett. Pitches it back to Scottie Barnes. I don't like the idea of pitching back in transition, but I understand why he did this. Okay. So here, Scottie, Mamu is going to set a screen, at least makes contact. This is a terrible shot. Early in the clock, this is just a stupid shot. Like, it's just a bad shot. There's really no way to mince it. There's no words to mince it. There's no way in hell you can look at your offense sputtering in the half court and say, you know what a great shot is? This. Early in the clock, mid-range shots for like contested mid-range shots, a little bit off balance. Guys, like right in your landing spot. Luckily, that's not a foul on Cam Johnson. Like that's an ankle injury. Like if his foot is just like a little bit like left, but look at the spacing. You know what I mean? You've got BI. Look at the spacing at the point of release. Look at RJ Barrett and Brandon Ingram clustered together. Where is that opposite corner, which Scottie could easily punch to the opposite corner here, right? What? Like, this is the problem. Like, your spacing sucks because your players don't know where to be. Let's move on to another example. Okay, here. Scott. Okay. Scottie's on Jokic. RJ is on Brown. I am not surrendering this switch, and the Raptors give it up way too easily. And there was absolutely no need to. Christian Brown is not the type of shooter at 32 feet that you need to give up this space to. I need Scottie to fight harder to stay on Jokic. Now here, Scottie's still on Jokic, right? But if you are RJ Barrett, there is no way in hell that you are trailing down on Jokic. This forces Scottie to get back on Brown because you don't want to send two to Jokic, at which point it'll just be an open shot for Brown. So unfortunately here, it's RJ Barrett deciding I'm going to guard Nikola Jokic. Now, once this pass is made, something must be done to help RJ Barrett. If you do not help RJ Barrett, you are giving up 2 points. There's no chance in hell other than an early foul that he is ever going to stop Nikola Jokic from getting 2 points on this. It is impossible. He does not have the strength, the size. He has no advantages in that situation, right? So I don't understand like why the Raptors decided to do that. That was just like it was some next level low basketball IQ. Okay, let us continue. Whew. Okay. Here, a little bit of offense to defense. 5-on-4 fast break. A 5-on-4 fast break should be at least the most efficient shot. Like it should be an open shot on the other end. The worst case scenario, the worst case outcome for a 5-on-4 shot for a team that is not inherently selfish is that you get at least a 1-on-1 favorable matchup that you exploit. Here's what the Raptors get out of their 5-on-4 break. The ball goes ahead to Immanual Quickley. The spacing is not great because you have 3 players kind of clustered together. Scottie is a little bit too early. Quickley is a little too late. Here we have, I don't know, like what is the threat of this? There's a threat of a dribble handoff. And here, Quickley is going to go into 2 defenders, basically, right? And the best defender on the court is Peyton Watson. That's your man. I don't understand. I don't understand how the hell, even if this is a made shot, I don't understand how on a 5-on-4 break, this is the best shot you can find. And in conclusion, this turnover by Brandon Ingram, this is not on Ingram. I think a lot of people were unfairly saying this is a Brandon Ingram problem. This was not a Brandon Ingram turnover, and I'm going to prove it to you. So here, the Raptors go early. I think Ingram played a really good game, by the way, just so we're clear. Like offense, defense, I think he tried his best. I think he did a good job. So here, the look at where the Raptors 5 players are. And once again, what is open? There is a right corner of the court that there's no players. You're allowing the Denver Nuggets to basically guard only half the floor. That is why RJ Barrett is double teamed right now, because your spacing is horrible. You're having two Nuggets defenders guarding three Raptors players. The only player who is properly like in their place right now is Immanuel Quickley and Brandon Ingram. So really right now, this is a Barnes and Mobo problem. You cannot have two players this close in the paint. Like, you just can't. And that's going to result in this type of bullshit pass. It's a terrible pass by Scottie. What are you hoping to accomplish with this pass? I mean, Mobo is okay. Yeah, like Jokic is not a great defender. Fine. He's still 7'5" wingspan. Mobo is not going to get a good look here. You haven't done anything to manipulate the defense. It's just hot potato basketball. This is terrible basketball. And then on top of that, now you've got a defender. And now it's like, look at this offense. Once again, I am sick and tired of having three Nuggets players guarding four Raptors players all the time. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's always due to the spacing. Look at where Scottie and Mobo are right here. Now, at this point, look at the triangle here in the top corner being formed by Scottie, Mobo, and Quickley. It is atrocious. And what this is doing is completely blocking off the paint for a drive for Ingram. There's no options here. You think the Raptors' problem is they don't have talent or that their players aren't very good, but honestly, their talent is being used horribly. And here, Ingram is going to make a drive. And why is it that Brown is able to gamble this way? Look at all the help he has behind him. He would be forced to be a lot less gambly and a lot more conservative if, maybe this was something off of movement, if this was off a screen, if there was some advantage generated. This is just offense from a standstill against a really good defender with two help defenders sitting in the paint and really a lot of non-shooters. What is Mobo doing here? What is Scottie doing here? Nothing. This is terrible offense. So, in terms of the subject of this live, what can Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley do? Okay. So look, get this out of the way real quick. A lot was said about Scottie Barnes today. I don't think a lot of it is fair. Criticizing him for 1 point when against this exact team, by the way, healthy in the regular season against the Nuggets last year, he had 21 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 5 steals, and posted a 12.7 blocks plus minus. In the same game, Nikola Jokic posted a 12.2. That is the game that the Raptors lost in overtime. Scottie Barnes got injured. The Raptors proceeded to lose 9 of their next 11 games without him, and the season was basically done. I don't care that Scottie Barnes is trying to find his way or ease his way into the regular season. I'll be more concerned if he has, 2 points or 3 points in a regular season. I don't care. Maybe because people are stupid. I think it's okay to call people stupid. I think it's also okay to call people liars. And so I think I think, the politeness is not really my jam, man. I'll tell you all about that later. I'm not like, we're not entertaining that. That being said, this 1 point thing is just it's a misunderstanding of the whole thing. Now, Scottie is as much a cause as a benefactor, as a symptom of, and frankly, a victim of the spacing in the Toronto Raptors lineup, right? There's a lot of things going wrong all at once. The mobile minutes are bad. Okay. Like, I'm just being honest. Jonathan Mobo, really love the dude. One of my favorite players in the league. I can be honest and say he's one of the worst offensive players. And quite frankly, it's even worse when he's sitting in the paint. It's even worse. You can probably go and look back on tape and say he's probably best sitting in the corner, at least as a decoy, even if teams aren't guarding him out there. He's better utilized as a cutter. Too often, the Raptors had 2 players doing something, 3 players doing something completely different. You had 1 player standing as a hub in the paint, another player standing in the dunker. You had 3 players huddled over on the same side. Everything I did about yesterday I went back after our live because I was very frustrated. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I took that loss. Like, I didn't take the loss hard. I didn't care too much about the loss. But between the live, the comments after, shit that happened on Player's Choice today, I was just like, is basketball analysis for me? Like, is this like, it makes you think. It really makes you think. Like, how much can you grind your head against the wall here? The problem with learning more about the game at any point, right? Like at any point you learn more about any subject, the number of people you can discuss it with is going to get smaller. It's just the truth. Okay. If you learn more about nutrition, right? The more you learn about nutrition, the more you study nutrition, the fewer and fewer people are going to understand what you can possibly talk about. Now, if you walk into that situation as you're the authority and they don't fight you and they just listen to you, that's one thing. But having debates with common people, like regular people who don't have any background in nutrition, haven't studied nutrition for a day in their lives, who are just going on TikTok trends, that would be very frustrating. I don't think I'm there yet with basketball, but I'm getting really close. I'm getting really close to the frustrating point, boiling point of basketball where it's just becoming really hard to talk about basketball with people who have no desire to understand basketball, but are basically wanting to make bad faith arguments just to get a point off. If you're not a fan of Brandon Ingram, waiting for his bad defensive play and his 18-point game where he shot 6 for 20 doesn't swing me, because at the end of the year, the averages are the averages and we can talk about them. If you want to say Scottie Barnes is a terrible player because he scored 1 point in a preseason, well, then I need you to acknowledge the fact that y'all told me that he was going to score 10 points per game, maybe most in his career, and he scored 17 points per game for the first 4 seasons. There is a very weird energy around Scottie in this fan base. There's a very weird energy around Immanual Quickley in this fan base, and I don't get it. But these two players need to be better. What can they do to be better? Well, for Scottie, I think you're going to have to acknowledge that your team requires you to bend to the less sophisticated parts of your team's offense, which means you need to adjust instead of doing the right thing. When you're doing the right thing and your teammates are doing the wrong thing, you're all doing the wrong thing. So, if you're in the right spot and your teammate is in the wrong spot, and you are the one who is smart enough to know the difference, then you're the one who's going to have to recover. Now, I'm not saying Scottie was always right yesterday. He was wrong a hell of a lot of times. But I think a lot of the problems coming down to quickly holding the ball too long, Scottie being, confused about his role on offense, Scottie not being a very good screener, Scottie not making contact on the screens, Scottie not being aggressive enough and looking to score, Scottie's shot selection, Quickley shot selection, Mobo being on the court. There were a lot of problems that happened for the Toronto Raptors yesterday. It wasn't just a one-person thing. It wasn't just all about Scottie. Now, I've talked a lot about intellectual curiosity. I also talked about approaching life like an anthropologist the other day. I also talked about non-narrative thinking. A lot of people have a baked-in understanding what a superstar is, what a superstar looks like. Maybe because you watch LeBron and basically you have an understanding of what LeBron does. You don't know everything LeBron does, but you know some things LeBron does. You know that LeBron usually doesn't score 1, 2, 3, or 4 points because you're a sports bettor, and he always, makes the over on 24 or something like that. To consume basketball in this sort of very silly way, to me, is misunderstanding impact. These are the same people that tell you Jason Kidd isn't a real superstar because he didn't average enough points, that Steve Nash didn't deserve MVPs because he didn't average enough points. Now, I don't think Steve Nash deserved those MVPs, but the points per game is not my argument. My argument is he didn't do enough of the other stuff to warrant all of the stuff that he didn't do. The Scottie is the opposite, whereas he does so many other things, to me, or at least in theory, can do so many other things. I'm surprised anyone has concerns over him being worth his contract or him being the best player on this team. It's truly crazy to me. Listening to people today on the panel, I don't want to play the clips because I don't want to give that shit any more oxygen than it already got today. 70,000 views. And people are comparing Scottie Barnes to Christian Brown and DeAndre Ayton. I'm lucky I didn't have an aneurysm on air because that's what it felt like. It was like, what are we doing here? A building. What is a building? We all have an idea of what a building is, right? A building is concrete. A building is tall. If someone told you I built a 2-foot building, you would say, that's not a building. That's not a building. That's not what a building is. But actually, it is. A building is just a building. You just have a different understanding of the millions of things that go into the definition of a building. What is a superstar? I think a superstar is your hardest worker. I think your superstar is your most impactful player. I think Kevin Garnett can be a superstar and average 15 points, 16 points per game. I think Shaquille O'Neal can be a superstar and never switch on defense or not be a good switch defender. I think players do it different ways. This is basketball. Things are different. I think Scottie Barnes generated a ton of really good looks for his teammates last night. I think there were some good plays defensively, offensively. The Raptors forced 31 turnovers yesterday. He was a huge part of that. He was an enormous part of that. And not someone up here saying he looked like a $38 million player, but he looked like an NBA player. He looked like a very good player yesterday. He looked like a player who was really lost about what to do, very disconnected from his teammates, not really sure where to fit in or what to do. Certain times he wants to be over aggressive and it's a bad move. Sometimes he's under aggressive and it's a terrible move. What I said yesterday was the same people who were saying 1 point would be the same people saying it's preseason if he scored 25 points and that you can't entertain these people. I think today was probably very frustrating for Scottie fans. I think it really was. You know who it wasn't frustrating for? Carter Bryant fans. Carter Bryant put up 15 points in his debut. Does that mean he's a 15 point per game scorer? Does that mean he's great? I watched that game. I'm a huge Carter fan. I know what Carter's going to be. But so many of those points were in transition, and every single point that he got is a point that Colin Murray-Boyles could have gotten. Every single point is a point Noah Senge could have gotten. It's not like it's nothing. It's nothing. These are points. These are rebounds. These are assists. It's a function of offense. If you go and look at the shots that Scottie missed, he took 6 shots. Kobe never started a game 0 for 6. Tracy never started a game 0 for 6. The difference between Scottie and Tracy and Kobe and Shaq is that those players would never allow themselves to end a game on 1 point. They would never do it. They would come out in the third quarter. They would demand the ball all the time until they got their 7, 8, 9, 10 points because they come from a mindset of scores, like your job is to score. You're a scorer. Scottie is a basketball player. His job is to win basketball games. He thinks his job is to, right now, set up his teammates. Him taking shots away from Ingram or Barrett or Quickley and trying to figure out, like, how, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, right? There's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. There's a lot of people who have the, idea that they're going to be 18 to 20 point per game scorers. You got Brandon Ingram talking about being an all-star. He's not going to be an all-star if he doesn't get touches. You need to give him touches. Sandro Mamukelashvili, arguably the Raptors' best offensive player yesterday. He needs touches. Colin Murray-Boyles is a rookie. He needs touches. So Scottie Barnes is going to be like, you know what? Let me be kind of like the last dog to eat here. You can't roast him on that because Brandon Ingram went on today and he said, in an interview with Kate Burness, that it's the Raptors' unselfishness that's really appealed to him. Tim Duncan was not like some guy who just needed to take his shots. He was smart enough and talented enough that sometimes he just got 10, 12, 15 points by virtue of just being a part of the offense. If you think Scottie Barnes is a 1 point per game player because he scored 1 point, you have it, man. But please also keep the same energy when this guy comes out and has 21, 12, 9, and 5. Have the same energy when he scores 34 points, 32 points, and 17 rebounds against LeBron as a rookie. Why do we act like every single game is like the worst thing on earth? Why do we act like play preseason? We're talking about preseason, not the game. Not the game. We're not talking about the game. We're not talking about the game where he will go out and play with a busted ankle, busted knee, tendon. We're talking about preseason. We're talking about preseason. We're not talking about, playoffs where he come back with a busted ankle and play really hard. We're not talking about switch 5 positions in the play-in. We're not talking about all that. We're talking about preseason. Preseason? It's weird. But that being said, if you think I didn't criticize him yesterday, you're Wait, am I going to get in trouble if I say, if you think I didn't criticize him, you're an idiot? Will I get in trouble for that? Let's get to censorship. I will not censor myself. I'm not going to do it. I'm on a growth path where I'm going to be a better person for me. I'm not being a better person for you. And quite frankly, if I swear too much, hide your kids. I did not get into this game to censor myself. Someone, left me a message, very kind, a lot of feedback, and said, listen, we're subscribers, but just because we don't agree with you doesn't mean we're idiots. It doesn't mean you're not an idiot. That's the truth, right? People can be stupid about things. Isn't that true? People can be stupid. I can be stupid about things. I'm pretty stupid about chemistry, by the way. I don't think I could recite a periodic table for you. I don't know a lot about aerodynamics. I don't think if I had a discussion with someone about aerodynamics or thermodynamics or molecular biology, I don't think that it would be unfair if I approached a discussion with, dude who worked at Dow Chemicals about biology and chemistry. I don't think it would be like out of line if at some point he just thought I'm basically an idiot. I don't think that's totally out of pocket. But people have very nice ways of telling you you're an idiot. People have very nice ways of telling you you're an idiot. People would be like, I don't think you've thought about this enough. I simply cannot be bothered. I will not be bothered. I am not going to become someone who is going to be deliberately indirect. It's something that bothers me a lot about Canadian culture, which is that y'all are not very direct with each other. You'll have somebody taking passive aggressive jabs at a person for, I'm sorry, that's not how I grew up. I'm not going to become indirect because you refuse to be direct. If you think I'm out of pocket, you tell me I'm out of pocket. We can have a conversation. All of this, I'm a Scottie fan, but why? Why are you so upset? And I think I've squared it down. And I'm going to read it to you. And then I'm going to give you a nice little update on Akil Augustine. Akil and I had a conversation. I want to kind of bookend a conversation that we had on this channel pertaining to what happened with Akil, the Scottie autism thing, the Vince Carter trivia thing. I want to get to all of it, and I want to give our community at least the fair, correct answer to what happened here. Okay, so first I want to read you my statement. Okay. I said, and this was, I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about this and I was just like annoyed and I couldn't sleep. So I decided to write this out. I said, the 1 point Scottie game exposes a very deep-seated insecurity among this fan base. The issue here isn't that Scottie had 1 point in 19 minutes and shot 0 for 6. To me, you go 0 for 6 every single game. I don't care. The issue isn't even that you won't bring up the 3 steals, his high defensive effort, or his great passing. The issue is we have a fan base composed of people who were very beaten down by their parents and view every single game as a physics exam, whereby points are the only barometer of success and failure. A guy can average 17 points per game for 4 years, make an all-star team, win Rookie of the Year, but let him score 1 point in a meaningless preseason game as he attempts to get his new teammates, set up his new teammates for easy looks and shits like he failed the LSAT. Look, I'm going to say this kindly. Get therapy. Just because your parents ruined your childhood and you haven't bothered to upgrade your basketball IQ beyond grade 5 doesn't mean every single game this season has to become some sort of, look, $38 million for 8 points dance. Okay, it's preseason. Relax. You have bigger fish to fry, bigger problems to solve. Namely, your starters don't fit together. And you've parked almost $100 million into 30-year-old center who is both declining and somehow quintessential team success on the basis that he's basically the only person who can set a solid screen for 16 players who all require a screen to beat their man. Like, basketball is more than points scored. I feel players like Jason Kidd, Tyrese Halliburton, and Scottie Barnes will always get underrated by people who don't understand the game. Thankfully, their coaches and GMs do understand the game. It's the same people screaming 1 point would be same people screaming it's just preseason if he scored 25. It doesn't matter. As the saying goes, haters are going to hate, and I'm not devoting another ounce of energy to this all season as I proceed to devote the next 24 hours. So my bad. I'm going to continue to think Scottie's worth every penny of that extension. And if you want to disagree, you can do that. And that is my statement on that. Okay, to the Akil thing. So Akil got back to me, if you remember, and I just want to share, what he said, because, we did trash him pretty badly for the Vince Carter thing. Although I do want to say we were wait and see on the Scottie autistic comment thing, right? So, one, he did not come up with the questions. He was fed the incorrect trivia question. So that is the first thing. Ripping him for not knowing Vince Carter was the first All Star was a mistake on my end. I probably should have assumed that somebody had just done some poor research and handed him a bunch of questions that are not true. That's the first one. The second one is that he was actually addressing a chat comment where he was telling people, like to stop like talking about that. And the camera recorded him saying, "How many times can you call someone autistic?" And then they handled it, in my opinion, very poorly by cutting the stream and making him look hella guilty. So no shade to Akil Augustine. Uh, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. That was sort of my random rant. I think the Raptors will be better. I hope they'll be better. But I think you have to look at the starting lineup and say, why don't Quickley and Barnes work together better than they do? For years, we have seen a theoretical fit between these two players. You obviously signed them together because you thought they were the future. It could be just a massive miscalculation. He just hasn't worked. They haven't worked together for years. There's a lot of like oil and water synergy between these two. They just don't read each other well. And I may be a little bit biased on this, but I think it's just because Quickly is not capable of doing some of the stuff that you want him to do. In New York, there was a limitation to the number of things he had to do where he was just coasting a lot on talent. It was a lot of Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, guys like that, creating the offense, throwing it to him beating an advantage and getting to the line. Taking that player and trying to morph them into a lead initiator, secondary initiator of your offense, in my opinion, is the mistake. And you probably, in my opinion, need to have a deep conversation with him about how this offense needs to run through Scottie and BI and not through him and RJ. And I think that will settle things down. You have the talent, in theory, you have the talent right now to have good spacing on the court. Even with Mobo, you shouldn't be this starved, right? Last night, Scottie Barnes guarding the 5. I hate this. I want Scottie at the 1 or the 2. That was his all-star season. He played the 1 and the 2 as his all-star season. You moved him down to 4 to accommodate Quickley and Barrett. It didn't work. His numbers have tanked, and he has not recovered. And if the scrimmage in the preseason is an indication of the season ahead, holy shit. Holy shit. This is going to be bad because he looks lost in this offense. He does not have advantages against 3s and 4s. You're taking him out of the one position. Why do you think I wanted Carter Bryant on this team so badly, bro? I don't want Scottie playing the 4. I don't want him playing the 4. I want him playing either the 3, the 2, or the 1, where he has some advantage. Against 1s, he can post them up. Against 2s, he can shoot over them. Against 3s and 4s, you're really putting this guy up to fail because he doesn't have the advantages. You're taking all of the versatility and you're making him an undersized power forward, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Whereas now he has to guard Nikola Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns. Why? Why would any team put their best player through this? It's a really stupid idea. And I have some serious questions at this point about what the Raptors are doing and how they're doing it. You might not think he has the handle to play the 2. I'll tell you right now, 100%, go watch the Raptors play from 2023, started the season till December 31st. What position did he play? I want you to go back and watch those games and tell me, OG, Pascal, Jakob. That was the 3, 4, 5. He made All-Star at the 2. He's a shooting guard. He is a guard. He's not lying to you. He's a guard. You have a guard playing the power forward because he's strong. We're back. We're back in year 2. Darko has this aversion to big guards, maybe because he's a small guard. Honestly, I'm going to say this very kindly. If Scottie continues to play the 4, he will continue to struggle. He does not, it's not his position. He is not a power forward. You're trying to make him into a power forward. You're negating his strength advantage. You're negating his size advantage. You're negating his length advantage. and he doesn't have the speed to punish power forwards. Like, as much as you think he does, because he can't shoot right now, he doesn't have the speed to beat power forwards. At least at the 2, you retain the advantage of having him sort of, you know, being able to see over the defense. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, as a 2 and a 1, he's a cheat code. As a 3, as a 4, he's a role player, and we've seen it year over year over year over year. And it's a little bit frustrating to watch your favorite player playing the wrong position as a coach that you swear knows basketball puts him in that position year after year. Immanuel Quickley's injury showed me Scottie Barnes ran this offense really well last year. I don't fucking care that Immanuel Quickley is 6'3, 6'2, 6'1, 6 foot. He could be 5'10. He's not a point guard, in my opinion. I don't think he's a point guard. And making him a point guard to appease his ego, to appease his contract, to retain his contract value, is a huge miscalculation. The Toronto Raptors will continue to lose if this happens, and he just doesn't make good enough decisions with the basketball. I think he needs to go back to an elevated version of his role in New York. I think Scottie needs to go back to more of a elevated version of his role in 2023, where it's a lot of catch and shoot stuff, a little bit more simple, but he's maybe playing more 2. And honestly, maybe RJ Barrett needs to go to the bench. Or you know what? If to the super fans out there who want to keep Emmanuel Quickley at the 1, RJ Barrett at the 2, BI at the 3, trade Scottie Barnes. That's my honest to goodness truth. If you want to ruin what this guy does, if you want to take the ball out of his hands, have him set screens that he's clearly not, he's averse to contact for whatever reason on those screens. He's not setting them well. He's not rolling well. He's not providing spacing. If you want to take the jumbo creator and make him into an undersized power forward, honestly, bro, just trade him. Because if you don't trade him and he comes out and averages 15 points per game, you got an albatross contract on your hands. And I don't think with Jakob Poeltl and Immanuel Quickley and Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett, you can afford to have your best asset by far, by the way. Scottie's the only player on this team that can command multiple first round picks. The only player. That's a depressing reality, but it's actually a fact. Brandon Ingram right now would not command multiple first round picks. Grady Dick would not command multiple first round picks. CMB would not, CMB, Mobo, Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed, Immanuel Quickley. There's not a single player on your team right now. Forget about how good they are as players. I'm talking about as assets. There's not a single player on this team that is worth what you paid for Jakob Poeltl other than Scottie Barnes. Let that sink into your head. You cannot take your best asset and your young all-star. You cannot take your 23, 24-year-old all-star and put him at the power forward and say, go set screens for Immanuel Quickley so that Immanuel Quickley can handle the basketball. When there's just an oil and water fit with this team, it doesn't look good. I hope Darko has a plan that I can't see. Remember the thing I said about being stupid when it comes to physics or stupid when it comes to, Dow chemicals or whatever? I would imagine that if I had a really, really deep conversation about the Raptors offense with Darko Rakovic, I would be the stupid one in that conversation. So I sometimes will ignore my own impulses, ignore my own, feelings about something, even though I have studied basketball a lot. I am humble enough to know I haven't studied basketball to the level of Darko Rakovic. So if he sees a way for this to work, I hope there is a plan in place, because for the last couple of years, this whole development reps offense hasn't mattered to me very much. But it did drive me kind of crazy in Scottie's, all-star year, how much Dennis handled the basketball. I think Scottie's 22 points per game for the first half of that season was undercut. He could have averaged 25, 26. I was upset. So I would personally run Scottie at the 1 or the 2. There's no way in hell I think Scottie is a center or a power forward or a small forward. His trainer doesn't think he's a power forward. I don't think he's a power forward. His high school coach doesn't think he's a power forward. His college coach doesn't think he's a power forward. But apparently, we've got Darko Rakovic trying to turn him into Nikola Jokic. He ain't Nikola Jokic, bro. He doesn't have 300 pounds. And the more you ask him to bulk up, the more you ask him to slow down, the fewer advantages he's going to have. And if he doesn't turn into a lights out shooter, you're going to have a really, really bad player, bro. Scottie ain't a guard, can't dribble. So here's the thing. In the NBA, there are about 200 guards. Okay. When Scottie finished out the 2024 year, 2023, he was the third or second best guard in the NBA. Maximum fourth. So if he ain't a guard, then you're really missing the point. It's one thing to say he's a guard who can switch down to centers. It's another thing to have him face guarding Nikola Jokic and Jonas Valanciunas in a preseason game. Give that assignment to Jonathan Mobo, bro. This is some really brutal shit. He's gonna get hurt. He's already gotten hurt so many times, having to, man I understand putting him lower in the defense, but again, a wing on defense, a guard on offense, who is capable of guarding centers is the way I would use him. Immanuel Quickley, I would use more off the ball. He cannot be having stagnant possessions where he just stands there holding his arms up, looking for the basketball. I just don't get it. I think this egalitarian offense is going to find a leader at some point, and I have a feeling that everyone is just going to kind of naturally defer to Brandon Ingram, which is probably the right move. But at the same time, I don't think Ingram is your best passer. I think he's your second best passer, and I think Ingram and Scottie need a different set of players around them than the ones they currently have to make it work. I think if you were starting a team with just those two, this is not the three-man rotation you would put around them. Hopefully, the Raptors have something up their sleeves in terms of a trade to make this happen or a shakeup in the lineup. Because I'll tell you right now, the only good thing I can say about this season, if it goes south, is you own your own draft pick this year and you haven't traded away for Jakob Poeltl or Thaddeus Young. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. And again, I'm not trying to be rude with the whole stupid, dumb thing, whatever. I have a way of talking. If you don't like it, I perfectly understand, bro. You're not the first person to tell me that I'm a little bit rough around the edges or whatever. If you have a problem with the way I talk, please understand I'm talking the way you're thinking. You think every day that something you're hearing is dumb. And then you filter out what you want to say with, I don't think that's the wisest idea. I don't have that filter. My view, I don't have the problem. You have the problem. You want me to have the problem. I haven't really worked for anyone in a really long time. I've run my own companies for since 2013. So it's been 12 years before PC that I worked for anybody. One of my biggest pet peeves of working for people is that you have bosses who get into trouble and then they dump down on you. I'm sure that some of you have bosses that do this too. That's a really frustrating thing for me. If you're somebody who walked into PC today and said, I can't believe this guy derailed the conversation of Scottie Barnes like as many times as he did, the last thing on earth that I wanted to discuss today was Scottie Barnes on Player's Choice. Did not want to discuss it at all. But relentlessly, over and over, he was brought up over and over. And we had 4,000 live viewers, 5,000 live viewers who had no interest in hearing anything about Scottie Barnes. And then boom, there we are. And now people are at me like, oh man, you got to get Penn off the show. Every time he's on, they bring up Scottie Barnes. There's that anthropologist viewpoint. Like, you need to study the viewpoint, right? You can be in the room when a problem occurs and not be the direct cause of a problem. I did not bring up Scottie Barnes today. I did not want to talk about Scottie Barnes today. It was Ox who wanted to bring up Scottie Barnes. It was Ron who wanted to bring up the tweet. It was Mars who wanted to troll. It was Jordan who wanted to troll. Jordan brought up Scottie. Ox brought up Scottie. Chill brought up Scottie. Every person who got up there wanted to talk about Scottie Barnes' 1 point game, but me. And who is the person that's being told, oh, well, you brought up Scottie Barnes too many times? Me. That shit pissed me off, bro. So here's the thing. You don't know a single content creator who thinks more of what Scottie is and what Scottie's going to be than me, which means a 1 point game for him is probably the biggest disappointment for me because I'm the person that has the highest expectations. So I must be the one who is the most disappointed. So why am I the least disappointed? One, I know it's preseason. Two, I'm not emotionally reactionary to one game. I try to build my takes over a longer sample than one game. Three, I don't have a vested interest to tear him down, which is why I'm not overreacting. And I think a lot of people in the comments who are saying things about Scottie and Immanuel Quickley right now have been waiting to say these things for 8 months and are using a poor performance or a loss to vent their frustrations. This is bad faith basketball. This is bad faith basketball commentary. And quite frankly, it happens way too much. It happens on PC. It happens on Pick a Side. It happens everywhere. It happens on Reddit. It happens on Twitter. It happens everywhere. You don't like Bronny James, so you wait for Bronny James to have an air ball to say, look, see, Bronny James is trash. And so there's this old saying, you know, I remember this actually. So when I was 5 years old, uh, a kid uh, stole my toy. This was in Italy. This was right before we left. And I was very, very upset. I came home and I was crying and I was very, very, very upset because it was like, I think it was like a He Man toy and I really loved it. And I was very upset. This kid just stole it from me. And I remember my grandmother, who was a very wise woman, she said, I will get you a new He Man toy. And I said, no, but I want that He Man toy. So I wanted that toy. And I thought about stealing one of that kid's toys as a retaliatory thing, you know, as kids do. I wanted to just be like, okay, well, you stole my toy. Can't get back my toy, so I'm going to steal one of your toys or something like that. And my grandmother actually did something very different. She gave me a bag to bring to school, and it had that boy's name on it. And I gave it to him, and he was like, what is this? And I said, I don't know. And he opened it up, and it was a toy, and it had been wrapped up. My grandmother thought in that moment when I was 5 years old that the best lesson to teach me was that an eye for an eye makes the world blind. That if this kid stole your toy, he must need that toy a hell of a lot more than you. The most disappointing moments of my existence, really, have been when I have been retaliatory when it comes to behavior that I don't deem healthy or good. If you want to tear down Scottie Barnes, there's a base instinct to start looking at the rest of the roster and tearing them down or tearing down your favorite player. Like if Swiper comes up and says, no, 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 Scottie Barnes is a bum because he scored 1 point. I'll be like, okay, well, Nikola Jokic is a bum. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't think Nikola Jokic is a bum. I love Nikola Jokic. He's from my country. How can I say he's a bum? So maybe I'll talk shit about Aaron Gordon or something like that. But it's like, why? Why? Why do this? You're telling me Scottie Barnes is this and this and this in the comments, and obviously I don't agree. I don't agree. And so there's a moment where I'm just like, okay, well, you know, let's look at RJ Barrett's defensive plays, shall we? I love that Scottie is not like this. I love that he didn't come into the third quarter and said, oh shit, I got 1 point. Let me get 8 points so I don't get roasted on Twitter. I love that he doesn't care about that stuff. And I think his teammates love that about him too. I'm not saying he had a good game. I pointed out in the film breakdown yesterday how he needs to set harder screens. I pointed out in the film breakdown today how he needs to take better shots. We have all arrived at the same conclusion that Scottie Barnes did not play very well yesterday. We have arrived at it for very different reasons. Some of you have arrived at that conclusion because you missed your parlay bet or that he had 1 point and you think 1 point is bad because you approach things from the same perspective that your parents approach things with you. And that's the truth, isn't it? A lot of us, I mean, I know I was pointing to my grandmother being this sage like wise lady, and she was, rest in peace. But I also had a mother who wasn't like that at all. I had a mother who was very much about appearances, about, you know, that will be embarrassing if you say that, or that will be embarrassing. She had the typical immigrant mentality. And the typical immigrant mentality is you got to outwork everybody. You don't want to be a social shame, right? I remember after high school, I wanted to take, I applied to go to Cornell. I applied to go to Harvard, Princeton. I didn't really apply to any schools here. And I didn't get into Harvard and I didn't get into Princeton. I got into Cornell and I didn't want to go. It was kind of my safety school. It's a great school. Cornell's an amazing school, as Andy Andy Bernard from The Office will tell you. I apologize. Sorry. Wow. And I remember when we went to a family function, my mom didn't want me to tell people that I didn't get into college. There was a very reasonable reason why I didn't get into college. I aimed a little too high and I didn't want to go to my safety school. And I was perfectly fine admitting that. But my mother decided that the optics of me not going to college with my peers would be too embarrassing for me and for people to look at me differently. So suddenly it became about how do people see me versus who am I really? Who am I really? I'm a person who used that gap year to work. I'm a person who had already bought my first property by the time I got there. I'm a person who had gotten into Cornell. I'm a person that got straight A's in grade 12. I'm a person that played 4 sports. I have nothing to be ashamed of. But because I wasn't going to university at the same time as my cousins or my friends, there was something to be ashamed of. I think a lot of people operate from a position of shame. A lot of people operate from that position of, oh my God, I'm 38 and I don't have kids. What will people say? Well, I don't know. What will you say? Oh my God, I'm 45 and I haven't bought my home. I'm a failure. Who says that? Why? Why are you a failure? Oh my, I live with a roommate when I'm 35. I won't be able to date people. Why? Who said that? You need to question shit. You're a max player who had 1 point in a preseason game. Did you play poorly? I don't think you played poorly. I just don't think you played well. Did a lot of great things on the court. Great defensive moments, great passes, generated a ton of defense, ton of offense. Did a great job on a lot of ways. A lot of things to clean up too. Terrible spacing, bad screen setting, didn't take the best shots, didn't make any shots. There's a lot to clean up with Scottie Barnes. But if you want me to feign outrage so that you can feel better, if you want me to come out and be like, Scottie Barnes, 1 point, oh my God, we paid him $38 million for 1 point. Why do I have to be stupid so that you can feel better about yourself? Why do I have to ignore the million things this guy does right so that I can hone in and join you in your terrible takes on what he does wrong? You don't even know what he's not doing wrong. You don't see what he's not doing wrong. The people on Reddit who are roasting this guy for having 1 point barely watch the game. If they watch the game, they have no idea what they're watching. That's the truth. You think Brandon Ingram is good because he scores 25 and Scottie Barnes is bad because he scores 1. Like that's the basis of basketball for you. But to me, this stuff doesn't matter. And you know how I know it doesn't matter? Cam Thomas can score 24 points per game and he can't even get a fucking contract offer. NBA GMs don't think this way. They don't think this way. It's shocking to me that some people in this fan base who watch this guy every single day, on the panel when people try to talk shit about Scottie, I'll be like, you don't watch him. And I know they don't watch him. Americans do not watch Scottie Barnes. But it's so amazing that so many Americans who don't watch Scottie Barnes on a nightly basis, who don't catch some of the brilliant things that he does on a nightly basis, who don't, get all the interviews and plugged into all the interviews with Darko and all the beautiful, growth he's made as a leader, the sacrifices he's made. You want players to be selfless. You want players to be able to set up their teammates. You want players to be able to take a step aside when other people need the ball and to be guarding Jokic because like it's not fun. You think it's fun to guard Nikola Jokic? You try it. Jesus, it's not fun to guard Jonas Valanciunas as a 6'7", 6'8" player. It's not fun to guard Jonas Valanciunas. He's got like 40 pounds on him. This is not fun. Why G9? This fan base like Scottie, there's just a vocal minority. I have a feeling that's true. When I go to Raptors games, in the rare case that I do, or when I walk down the street sometimes, people will come up to me and there's so many people that have done this over the last 4 years where they'll come up to me and they'll dap up and they'll say, I love how you always show Scottie love. I know he knows it. I know his trainer knows it. I know his mom knows it. I know his dad knows it. I know the people around him see it. But it's so interesting to see everybody else see it too. Understand that showing someone love does not mean lying about them. Me coming out here and calling his bad games good is not love. That's not showing someone love. That's hating on a player, honestly. That's hate. But try to convince people who got so much hate as children and were told it was love what love actually is. Love is truth. You showing love to a player, that's truth. Telling people the truth is love. And telling you the truth is this simple. If I'm showing this community love, that's the truth. The truth is, Scottie did not play great. He didn't play anywhere near as bad as you think he did, probably, but he didn't play great. He's got to play better tomorrow night. I hope he does. I'll catch y'all later. Yeah. And shout outs to our members, and also shout outs to John McCall, still one of my favorite interviews we've ever done. If you have not seen it, dude, what are y'all waiting for? You need to check out this video. This video on athleticism, fascia, all this stuff with John McCall. Dude, you need to go check this video out. I promise you it is worth your time. Almost every person who's watched it has reached out to me and said this is like the best interview you've ever done. Definitely go check this one out. If the algorithm did not find you on this, you need to go find this video. Also, tomorrow I'm gonna lay out the playlists on the channel, so you'll be able to check out the Chuck Swirsky interview. There's probably a ton of interviews that you probably don't even know we did. Chuck Swirsky, Nav Bhatia, John McCall. There's so many interviews that just maybe didn't catch the right wave with the algorithm. We'll make them a little bit easier to find. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. I hope this live made a little bit of sense. And yeah, uh, I will probably be on playback tomorrow night before the Raptors game for the WNBA game. So it's going to be WNBA game 3, playback, probably, likely. I don't know if they'll have me on, but sure. I should be on the panel on Thursday. We'll see. I don't know. Post game tomorrow. Of course, Vegan Grass. I will always have post games for every single Raptors game, other than the ones that coincide with Penn Dance. You two had energy like Run DMC. Appreciate that, man. It was great energy. And I'm a very transparent person, dude. Like, I'm a very transparent person. If I don't like you, I 100%, you're going to know it. You're going to know it 100%. Right? Dude, every week I say next week, next week, next week. It just doesn't happen. I've been watching the Spurs. There's a lot of internal resistance to starting this channel for some stupid reason. I don't know. First, it was I can't find my login credentials. Now it's like, I don't know. We only have 150 subscribers. Do we want to be making content? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if y'all can tell because the lighting is a little bit weird. My face is really torn up right now. There's a lot happening with my face right now. It's good for the long term. I'm sure in a couple of months it'll be fine. But right now, right, like my face is kind of fucked up. So there was a part of me that was just like, okay, I want the Spurs channel to launch off this year. I'm really excited to support Carter's journey, Wemby's journey. The Spurs have obviously been like, if I didn't live in Toronto, I'd probably be a Spurs fan. I'm just gonna be I'm level with you 100%. Scottie would still be my favorite player in the league, but the Spurs have like my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth best favorite players. And it's just annoying to watch a fan. It's annoying to watch a team just do everything you wish your team had done. There's people in the media right now that are just like congratulating themselves over, oh, Bobby Webster went with our pick. And it's just like, yeah, but the Spurs went with my pick. The Spurs went with my direction. Every single year they've gone with my direction. Whoever they've picked is exactly who I would have picked at every single spot for the last 4 years. 3 years. I would not have picked Jeremy Sohan. So it's hard to ignore how many of my favorite players are on that team. It's hard to ignore the fact that I think they're going to be a really great team. Until I find out how great the Raptors are going to be this year, I don't know how much I'm willing to invest in making free content because YouTube does not let you monetize until you get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And honestly, I was able to leverage a pre-existing audience in Toronto to become Pensar Basketball. And a part of me is probably terrified that starting a Spurs channel right now would result in like 5 months of me making content for zero money. And I don't know if right now I want to work for 5 months for free. Obviously, after 5 months, you'll have 2 channels that pay the bills. You can do joint draft content. There's actually a great payoff for it, but I also have Penn Dance to plan. So it's really tough right now. But yes, I will probably do when I start doing draft content, I'll post it to both channels for sure. And then we'll see if we can somehow like cheat our way into getting monetization on that channel. We'll see. Also, YouTube just introduced channel collaborations, which is really interesting as well. So there will be a chance to maybe do like a Spurs Raptors post game from both sides when the Raptors play the Spurs. I'll be able to do it on both sides. So we'll see, man. I think I need to rethink this. I was very impulsive in that moment because I was so pissed off that initially I was pissed off that I can't say I was really pissed off. I really wanted Carter on this team, obviously. And I would just feel a lot better about this team if we had Carter and Maxime. I'm just gonna be level with you 100%. If we had Carter and Maxime right now, I would feel a lot better about this team. But we don't. And instead, we drafted 2 players who are spacing concerns, and we think Scottie is going to play power forward. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird to me. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. And nice one saying, I've always liked Keldon Johnson too. OKC and San Antonio Spurs are next level front offices. I agree. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and that's good. I think the Raptors are going to regret, in my opinion. I think they're going to regret what they're doing with Jacoby right now. I think you need to get Jacoby upper rotation minutes. I think they're probably making the same mistake with the RJ Ochai thing, but they're going to hang on too long. But hopefully they make a move sooner than later. And I am praying, to the love of God, I am praying that they see a pathway to Scottie being a wing or a guard in the future. Because right now I'm not seeing it. And you keep drafting all these shooting guards. You have Immanual Quickley signed up as point guard. There's no path to Scottie playing his natural position, which is guard. So he has to play this sort of jumbo wing. And he's just slow. He's just not fast enough to exploit those matchups. You know what I mean? Like he just kind of like heavy footed. And so like there's quick twitch athleticism, slow twitch athleticism. There's a lot about that. Like he's not like the quickest twitch athlete. And so that kind of explosive burst that someone like Mikal Bridges would have playing the power forward, he don't have it. So it's a little bit like OG Anunoby, right? Like it's a little bit weird. I just think Scottie's playing the wrong position. Anyways, the moment RJ and Ochai go on a good streak, we must trade them. Yeah. Isn't CMB a power forward? Well, in theory, but then the Raptors tried to use him as more of a small forward, and they're trying to develop the jump shot. He is a player who can theoretically play the power forward, yes. And if he were to make it into the starting lineup, it would allow Scottie to move back to like the wing. But now you've invested in Brandon Ingram, whose natural position is also the small forward. Trading RJ for a 4 solves all your problems, by the way. So trading RJ for Lauri Markkanen or some sort of deal like that would solve a ton of problems and would make the Raptors a lot better, in my opinion. But the Raptors need to figure out their spacing, because if they don't figure out their spacing, they're not going to figure out their drives. They're not going to figure out their shots. They're not going to figure out their turnovers. They're not going to figure out their offense. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night. Peace.